Man's control and Batman with his fist. And clearly I don't see myself upon that list. She said,
hey everybody. I love that song, Kurt. Thanks for playing that. Hey everybody, thank you for being here for another terrific edition of Deborah Kobylt Live, and thanks for joining us. We have a fun show today. Joining me straight up, we're going to go and talk a little bit about what's going on in the world. We've got Dan Lothian, former senior White House correspondent under Dan Lothian, under Barack Obama, worked for CNN for many years, traveled with Barack Obama, and we always love to get Dan Lothian's take on the latest stuff on President Trump. So thank you for being here.
Good to be here, as always.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So let's start a little bit with, I read a Washington Post poll, and it said that if people were to go back out and vote for Hillary or Trump, 43% versus 40%, they would still be voting for Trump, which I found surprising. Yet a Gallup poll just was released this week, and it said that President Trump has the lowest ratings since the Gallup poll began back in 1935. So people don't really love the guy, but yet if they were to vote again for Trump versus Hillary, according to the Washington Post, Trump would win again. What kind of a job do you think he's doing? You think he's doing a good job out there?
Well, I think, I think what you're seeing is there's still very strong support among the folks who elected him. Conservatives believe that President Trump, he promised a lot of things, and while when you look at it, there isn't a lot that has been actually delivered. He has started the process on a number of issues that he promised during the campaign, and I think that's the key, even if it's something that, for example, healthcare, we saw how that kind of went down in flames, or went up in flames, but he still talks about bringing them back. They set out these interesting dates in about a week or in 2 weeks, but nothing really has come together. What Trump can do is say, look, I promised I was going to do all these things. I started doing them, and those guys, those Democrats, those detractors have kept me from completing the process. And so he can just push the blame onto someone else. So it allows him to throw out a lot of different things. They don't have to be fully baked, but he at least can show the people who got him into office that he's doing something. And for that, they are still supporting him.
I don't know. He's done quite a bit in his first 100 days, don't you think? I mean, he's nominated Supreme Court Justice, and that got confirmed. He's abandoned the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement. I mean, he ended up doing that. He, what about the missile strike against Syria? And now look at what he's doing. We've got an aircraft carrier on the way to North Korea, which is really a danger. That's really a mixed bag, because North Korea is saying they're going to sink our ship. I mean, an awful lot has happened in 100 days.
Well, right now, so that's the issue. A lot has happened. The question is, has he gotten a lot of things done? And yes, on the Supreme Court, that is something that he can chalk up as successful.
Dan, can I stop you? Dan, can I stop you for a minute? Dan, I can't hear you that well. If you're running a marathon, can you stand still? Because it's just, I can't hear you.
I'm not running a marathon.
You're not? It sounds like, doesn't it sound like he's kind of running? Or you're sitting in your office. Try and just stand there, because I'm having a tough time hearing you. It sounds windy. So, okay, just start again. I had to say that. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Hang on, let me try one more.
Where did you go?
Okay. Is this clearer?
Much clearer. Thank you. I'm glad I said something. We'll cut that out later. Okay.
Okay.
Dan,
okay.
much better, much better. Thank you.
Right. So the thing is that I believe that he has certainly attempted a lot of things. He has sort of been very active, but he hasn't really delivered on a lot of the promises. Yes, he got the Supreme Court. He promised, that health care was going to be repealed and replaced. That did not talked about the process to that has begun, but they still have not pulled out of it officially. So there are things that you can kind of look at as he has talked about it. He has gotten a lot of press for it. But when you want to check it and move on, a lot of things still haven't been checked.
What about poking a stick into North Korea? Do you think we're doing the right thing? He seems to have a lot of support there, though. I'm a little surprised from both sides. But what do you think about what's going on there?
Well, my hope is that his whole strategy here is really just to poke with a stick, but not do anything beyond that. One of the things that I think I can say certainly has been
somewhat of a victory for Donald Trump. And that is, he talked about building this wall, and first it was Mexico was going to pay for it, and then now it's the U.S. taxpayers who have to pay for it. In the process, what we have seen is that illegal immigration across the border has been way down. And so perhaps that could be the strategy, that you threaten something and people stay away. So maybe if you poke at North Korea and you let them know that you are willing to take them on and forget the strategy of the past, and maybe that gets them to straighten up. Maybe that's a successful strategy. We don't know at this point. I don't think anyone wants to go to war with North Korea
because you're not really going
get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, because you're not really going to war with North Korea. You're going to war with the whole region, really. So that's a big danger and a big concern. But you're right about him. And, that's how he does his dealings in real estate. I mean, he walks in and he filibusters quite a bit. He'll walk right out of a room and people will say, oh, no, what did we do? And I think you're right. That may, in fact, be a strategy, but that's his personality. So perhaps, we'll have to wait and see on that one. What about, we were just talking before we went on the air about Ann Coulter. She just canceled her appearance in Berkeley. And we've been following that closely in my household because we know Ann, and Ann was on John's show, I guess this week or last week, talking about how she's going no matter what. According to her, she was invited, then uninvited. The time was changed, and then she said, I'm going anyway, and I'm going to show up this Thursday, which would have been tomorrow night. And just now, about an hour or two ago, she canceled, saying that there wouldn't be proper security for her from the Berkeley City Police. What do you think about that? And what was interesting was, of course, Sanders supported her. I mean, this is about free speech. And it's about that's what the issue is. It's speech. And what do you think? I was surprised she backed away from it. Yeah, go ahead. I
am surprised that she backed down, but maybe she said, look, this is my chance to kind of get back at these people who have been, kicking me around. The problem I have with this whole issue, and I do take Ann Coulter's side on this, is that it is a free speech issue. And a lot of college campuses, a place where, throughout history, young people have been allowed to have differing views and challenge authority and to say, sometimes things that we would say cross the line, but that's what you can do on a college campus. But lately, it seems everyone is scared when there's someone like an Ann Coulter who's coming. They hide behind the whole issue of security, that, if someone comes here, we don't think that we can properly secure it. And so we saw them do that, and then they had to backtrack on it, which almost in a way removed a little bit of gave us a window into what they were really doing, which is they didn't want her on campus. And so I think this should be, I hope it's a wake-up call for college, administrators, that they return to, you can't let everything go, but they return to the way it was, that you allow different voices to come on to the college campus and to talk. And, free speech doesn't always have to be pretty. But it's something that we should let flow. And we didn't see that in this case.
No, and what's interesting is I've toured Berkeley, and the largest club there, they have over, I think, 1,200 clubs. The largest club there is the Republican Club, which a lot of people don't realize. They're like, at Berkeley? Yes, at Berkeley. So they have a large voice there over at Berkeley, and they shut it down. And I think she wasn't afraid, but at the end of the day, what she said today was, nobody has my back, and the people who said they had my back, they don't, and they're just letting me hang out there by myself. And at that point she was getting concerned about her own security, and she finally said, forget it, I'm out of here. So I do hope that this sends a real message about free speech on both sides, because you can't have it one way or the other, and that's why it's a good thing that Sanders came out in favor of her too.
No, I think that's good, because a lot of people say, I believe in free speech until you're saying something they don't like.
Isn't that the way?
And that, that's kind of how it always is. But free speech should be free speech, and you support it, but don't necessarily go along with what it is that people are saying. And in this case, I think, and maybe she was concerned about her safety, but I think ultimately she was saying, forget you guys. You invited me, then disinvited me, then brought me back in a different venue. Now I'm going to string you along, and then I'm going to blow you off. And I mean, that's kind of her personality. I don't know her well, but just from what I've seen her do in the past, it almost seems like this is her way to signal to them, you can't mess around with me and get away with it.
You've traveled on Air Force One for so many years with Obama. What are you hearing what it's like on Air Force One with President Trump? One big party?
I haven't heard. Well, it's never a big party on Air Force One. For those who haven't been on there, people often think that you're floating around and you have access to the entire plane, and the reporters are stuck way back in the right corner, right in front of the galley, and any further than that, you're out the tail of the plane. So it's not as if you're part of the group of the president's insiders. He flows around a little bit more than President Obama. I know initially in the early stages. Oh, yeah.
He doesn't like the press. I'm surprised.
President Obama. Pardon?
Sorry, I keep talking over you, but he doesn't like the press. I'm surprised he doesn't just stay up in first class and just let the president.
Right, he doesn't like the press. But I know that in the first, and people often don't realize this, but in the first few months of President Obama's tenure, he did not come back and talk to the press at all. So he may not have been talking about how he didn't like the press, but I think oftentimes people don't realize that he didn't really trust the press. He was just more, how should we say, smooth about the way that he dealt with it. He wasn't sending tweets and bashing the press and saying that we were fake news.
Right, he was a little more refined about it.
It wasn't too...
He was
refined about it. And I think towards midway range or towards the end, he was coming back more frequently. But early on, he stayed away from us.
Mm-hmm. I remember someone, anybody who was a kid knows what Flat Stanley is, right? My kids, Flat Stanley, and if you don't know what it is, then go look it up. But my kids, Flat Stanley, got to go all over Air Force One because Dan took them around. And my kid's Flat Stanley would be like in Beijing with the president. He'd be on the plane with the president. And my kid was almost embarrassed. Other people were just sending their Flat Stanleys over to their aunt and uncle's house. And my Flat Stanley's running around with the president. So thank you for that, Dan Lothian. I mean, you have so many great stories to tell.
That Flat Stanley got a lot of frequent flyer miles.
Yeah, that's right. That was great. Anyway, thank you so much, Dan, for being on and for just sort of chatting with me about the first 100 days of Trump. I appreciate it. And I'll see you in 2 weeks when I'm in Boston.
Okay. Thank you for having me.
Okay, bye. Always. Talk to you soon. All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
I love him. He's one of my closest friends, Sloan Bella, my next guest. Thank you for being here.
Great to be here.
You are a psychic, an astrologer, an expert. You're a medium. You're everything. You really are a psychic to the stars, but you're truly an intuitive person. A lot of people claim to be like intuitive and they're psychic, but they don't really know what they're talking about. But you tend to approach it from a scientific point of view, and you've worked with so many people. You've been on almost every TV show, from all the entertainment shows to Jimmy Kimmel to the news to everywhere. You worked with Anna Nicole Smith, I believe, before she died.
Yes.
So you've got a lot to say, but so thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
It's exciting.
And when we were talking on the phone yesterday, I was telling you, we have a large studio audience here today for you.
I like it.
that I was having my friend on, who was a senior White House correspondent, to talk about not just Obama, but obviously Trump. And I asked you to look into Trump, his birth date, and tell me a little bit about when you look into President Trump, did you see a win for him? What do you see moving forward for President Trump as a president?
Okay, well, don't shoot the messenger is the first thing I say.
No, we won't. Same with a journalist. It's
yes.
like, look, we're just here to tell the story, depending upon what you're watching.
Right. When I first looked at his chart, it was really interesting because I felt like he was going to win, okay? He had all the aspects. He is a Gemini, which makes him, okay, Gemini, like your husband, a little bit, all over the place. Do I want to say that? And
John's not all over the place. He really is.
He's a focused one. It's a different aspects. But when I looked at Trump, he's got his hands in everything. So that made me think he could actually do it because he's very, he can focus in different directions. When I looked at the aspects that were happening around the election, he had the better aspects out of the two candidates to win. So I knew he was going to win. He had a fixed star on his ascendant. He had a fixed star on his progressed sun. So when I looked to progressions...
What does that mean?
Oh, yeah. I got to say what it means. Okay, when you're looking at someone's chart, what astrology chart is basically, if you know the correct time of birth, it is a map of potential for this human being that is being born. So it's as if you're pushing... You remember when you had your sons and you pushed them out? And you had them. They arrived. And so if you were to look up in the sky and see the constellations around them at that time, it's like a snapshot is taken. And we astrologers read
Oh, that's
that
just what I was
snapshot.
thinking as they were coming out of there. It's like,
Yeah, well, exactly. That's what I was thinking too, but with a lot of cussing. But anyway, the snapshot is taken, and it's basically a map. It's a map of potential. We erect charts based on the latitude and longitude of where the person is born, the time, and we move the wheel accordingly. And then the interpretation of what that means is left to each astrologer. So that's where the schooling of an astrologer comes in, or the interpretation, what they've learned in their practice all the way down. And I've been studying for over 30 years. So
you have. We'll get back to Trump
Yeah.
in a minute, but a little bit about your background. You were a runaway teen.
I was. At 14, 3 months after I turned 14, I walked out my front door.
And you learned sort of on the streets how to be very intuitive. You were picking stuff up from people, or do you feel like you were sort of born a little psychic? I'm not going to say I believe or disbelieve in psychic ability, but I think some people may or may not be more intuitive than others, and they can pick stuff up. And then,
Well, you have intuition in your work. You have intuition specifically with what you do work-wise.
I think that's very true.
Yeah,
You have to be able to
where
read
you're
somebody,
honed.
but I often tell people park it at the door because you might be wrong too, and then
Yeah.
it's going to screw up your interview if you go in with a preconceived notion. But you're right about that.
You do. You have your opinion. You don't say it as a journalist. Okay, you're going to be fair and you're going to leave it to
Supposed
what
to be.
Yes, but you're going to do that. But underneath, you already know when you walk in there, because I just know that you do. I know you walk in, you get an assessment, and you walk out. For me, I don't ever remember not knowing things, like just picking up things about people. So it's like my eye color. I just looked in the mirror and that was my eye color. That's how I exhibited on the planet. I just was born and I experienced it that way. So I saw the world through the eyes of an intuitive person.
And what do you do when you know the birthday, but you don't know when the person was born? For example, you asked me my
Yes.
birthday, and it was kind of funny. We called one of my aunts on the phone. Why, right?
That was great.
Wasn't
Yeah.
that hysterical?
No,
You got
it's
a little
great.
bit
She's
of
lovely.
snapshot into my life. We were on the phone talking about birthdays and birth time, and she's like, "When were you born?" I said, I don't know. I can ask my sister. She wasn't there.
Yeah.
I mean, she wasn't home. So we called one of my aunts, who is always very fun and animated in New Jersey, one of my
Yeah.
Italian aunts. And
She
we
was awesome.
She goes, "Oh my God, Debbie, what a day I'm having." I thought, listen to this. This is my life from back. It was just very funny. But she didn't know either. So you had to proceed with my chart, for example, not knowing when I'm born. So how does that change things?
Exactly. I get a lot of clients that either come from different countries, they don't know, the parents aren't around to tell them, and quite frankly, a lot of people don't know when their kids came out because they were too busy giving birth to focus on this. There's other things in the room. So I do a sun on the ascendant. So I basically I won't know your rising sign, but I make it for 6 a.m. and I'm able to read the outer planets and the aspects to the planets from that. So I don't know your rising sign. For people who don't know what that is, that's
I don't. I'm not a
Yeah.
big student of this stuff. So explain it to people
A rising
who don't get it.
sign is the way the world sees you. So it's basically the veneer that you wear out in public. So it's the way that you're seen. To me, when I'm looking at you, when I look at you in person, not on the phone, but I did enjoy your sense of humor. You have a tremendous sense of humor and a lot of power that you hide behind your sense of humor, by the way.
Very true.
When I look at you, actually physically, you remind me of a Sagittarius. You are 0 degrees Capricorn sun, by the way. You are not Sagittarius.
Okay.
So you are.
I am on the cusp. I was
Yeah.
born like a day after Sag, right? I mean,
Yeah, well, cusp is very interesting. I used to slap my kids' hands when they said the word cusp, but no cusp talk. You're either 0 to 30 degrees of a sign or you're 0 degrees of the next sign. And your sun is actually 28 seconds into Capricorn. Now, if I knew your exact time of birth, I'd be able to hone that. It might be a degree in because we don't actually know. So I put it for 6 a.m. So at that point, you're just seconds into being a Capricorn. So your experience as a Capricorn person has been most of your life. So we go through about three.
So what are
three-
Capricorns like? I mean, give
I
me
love them. Okay, so they're basically, I do love them. They're quirky, but they won't let other people know their quirks. So underneath, they have a fantasy life in their head that's unusual and odd. So they see the world in a
That
different
is very true. I am very unusual and very odd.
but you won't let people know it all the time until they get to know you. Usually in early childhood, there's some very serious lessons that they learn. So it's not always a happy, fun childhood per se, like, fishing and boats and sunshine and popcorn.
Anybody have
There's-
that? I mean,
Well, some people do, but for Capricorn in particular, they get their strength from not having that in childhood.
From everything getting screwed up. And then they like figure it out. And then
no, but that's where their strength comes. There are also people, because they are ruled, your ruling planet is Saturn, because they're ruled by Saturn in this life, they take things very seriously. So there's a huge sense of responsibility with all of them. Even if you get like a little kid Capricorn who's like 10, they are
a little kid Capricorn.
Yeah, a little kid Capricorn.
They grow up to be big kid Capricorn.
Right,
okay.
but when I mean they're little and they're supposed to be like little kids, they're very serious about certain things. So if they have a focused direction in life, they will go after it when other people don't. And they are also late bloomers. So when they are little people,
that's for sure.
Yeah, when they are little people, they will appear to be more adult, like little old people when they are young. When they go into their 40s, they get younger but stronger. So you actually are going the opposite of the people on the planet. In other words, you will age better, you will be younger, older, and your power comes in now. You're actually in a power cycle right now when I looked at your chart. And it's career and it's work and it's within 7 months and it's going forward the next 3 years. So there's a new project. I'm going to announce it here. She has a new project. She didn't tell me. I know she does. And in the next 3 years, it's going forward. She's working on it in the next 7 months, and it will happen. And that's your power. You're strong. So there's a dynamic side to you. Emotionally, you're not going to get the credit you want, though, for the next 2 years, but then you will.
So everything's going to sort of come together.
Yes. And
to perfection, to nirvana, sort of something like that.
Something like that, yes.
Okay. Now let's get back to Trump for a minute. And then I want to talk about some of your celebrity clients.
Yes.
So what's ahead for Trump?
Oh.
I mean, didn't you tell me yesterday that if we were to vote again in another couple of years, he could in fact win again?
I feel like people are going to vote for him again, and don't shoot me, as I said, but I do.
I think it all depends upon what he's doing. I mean, if he's effective in some of what he's doing, and he's, for example, internationally, if some of these nations back off, perhaps it was an effective plan. I don't know.
He's got a really strong chart, and he's blessed. He has a fixed star Regulus on his ascendant, which gives him the power of authority. Now, do I believe he should have authority or not? I guess that's a fundamental belief in society. I have no idea. But
he's a president. He's got it. Like it or not,
he's got it.
Right?
You're right. He's got it. His strength is that he has Mars on his ascendant coming from the 12th. So he's kind of guided from the other side. So he's got a very perceptive instinct, and he will act accordingly. He's not just acting as a narcissist like people like to say. You've heard this.
I do think I know him.
His instinct is dead on.
I know him early on in my career, and he's actually very perceptive and intuitive. I think so. He doesn't have the widest vocabulary, so I think what happens is he goes, "It'll be great. It's terrific." You know, he has like the same little adjectives that he uses all the time, so people think, "Oh my gosh, he's really not that bright," but he is.
No, I can.
He's a quick study, I think.
I can see the intuitiveness. He's being guided from the other side. He also is extremely strong. He has, when you look at his chart, he's not going to let you walk over him. But what I like best about him is he looks at this country as his family. Now, that's one thing I saw in his chart, which is weird. I think he's a good family person. I wasn't married to him, and I'm not going there with the wife thing. But I feel like he was.
I know what you're saying.
Yes, I feel like he's dedicated to his family as much as anybody is. If you looked into anybody's family life.
Well, you'd have to ask his kids. They seem pretty loyal to him. The wives, I don't know.
Yeah, that's
jury's out on that one.
That's a wife thing.
We'll ask number 3, you know, someday down the road. I actually read an article today. It was, I think it was in the Huff Post, how he's always leaving his wife behind. You know, she's 10 steps behind him on the plane. And when they first went to the White House, you know, to present the gifts to the Obamas, and Melania had that lovely Tiffany box.
Yes.
I was at the inauguration. I wasn't at that point, but I saw it. And
Beautiful.
again, he gets out of the car. He goes and shakes her hand. She's still struggling to get out with the package. And I thought, geez.
Do you know what that is in his chart?
Is he nervous or something? He's trying to...
He's got Mars on the ascendant. That is like that's an Aries undertone, and they're always 6 steps ahead in their mind. So his mind is over there. He's not even thinking of etiquette. He's just moving.
My husband does this.
Okay, yes.
That's why I brought it up, and it pisses me off. It's like, dude, I'm over here. So
yeah, they're not thinking like that.
You did John's chart, too, because I know you listen to his radio show.
I do. You know, I actually really like it.
I know. I can't call anyone without them going, oh, my God, like, is that...
It's the time frame when I used to pick the kids up from school. So I've been listening since
So do his chart. Does he have the same thing where he doesn't wait for people coming off a plane? I actually brought that up to him today. I'm like, you never put the luggage up for me. You know, you don't do. He's like, oh my God.
Do you know what it is? He's your husband, and again, you know him better than I do. Where you're seeing, I said to you yesterday, I see sort of Cancer traits to him, the sign of Cancer, even though he's a Gemini. He's kind of. he's a fixed sign, but on an emotional level, he's kind of tired with everything that's going on around him. And I feel like he wants a change. That's what I feel like he wants. So I feel like he's saying, I want to change. Please don't leave the radio. But anyway, I feel like he's saying, I want to change. And that's where he is. There's a part of him that's fed up with doing everything, and I don't mean that he's not grateful. I just mean he's been doing it, and
he loves it. Actually, I think he'll do it until he takes his last. He'll take his last breath talking with a microphone next to him.
Well, I think he wants to change though something he's doing in his work life. I feel like when he goes ahead of himself... I'm going to tell
him this. He will laugh.
Yeah.
Because this is what he lives, eats, and breathes, studying news and what goes on in the world. So that's very interesting.
And he's very good at it. But I feel like there's a change coming for him. I also feel when he's doing what he's doing to you, I feel like it's more that he considers you his partner and there with him,
right?
So
then she can get down the stairs on her own,
like
kind of a thing.
She's a grown woman. She can do. I know what you're saying, but I feel like he can. Are you glaring at me now? She's glaring.
No, we joke about it at home, and I'm like, come on.
No, he considers you his equal, actually. So that's a good thing. Like you, I know women want romance and they want to be treated like that, but he's like, no, you're my contemporary. So that's a good thing. Partnership. It doesn't always do well in a marriage. Those are two different things. He considers you really his friend and his equal. That's what it is coming from his chart, and he also. Actually, he has a good sense of humor. It's underneath all of that, though. So it's not quite as on the top as yours. Like yours is right there. I could take you down a funny road if I wanted to,
Any time of day. I'm always ready. I don't know. I look at almost any situation and I can find the humor in it. But
yeah, you have a great
I'm
sense
just
of
that
humor.
way, and I just live that way, regardless of what I'm doing. And I try and keep it serious, but it's hard for me. I just naturally don't. Let's get to Anna Nicole Smith.
Oh, I loved Anna. Yes.
You worked with her. You worked with a lot of celebrities.
I did. Anna was one of my most interesting in that I had a very odd experience with her prior. I met her through a friend of hers, Sandy, who was on her show and actually dressed the body for the funeral, if you remember Sandy. She had the red hair and the tattoos, and so that's how I met Anna.
I don't, but I thought it was very sad, and I thought it was particularly sad that her son died. Just
horrific.
Was it before or after that? I don't recall.
It was right before.
Right before,
6
and she
months.
must have been heartbroken. She was addicted, and whenever she wanted pills or drugs, I guess it was readily available to her.
As it
because
is,
people were just caving into whatever need she had, and then she died. I thought it was very sad. I think she really tried in her life. I never looked at her as some gold digger. I looked at her as someone who was really trying to make it in life.
Yeah, she was trying, and I actually go back even farther than that with her and to her childhood, but she noticed one thing about this planet, and I call this planet reverse world, and she was kind of in agreement with me with that because she had every gift that a woman says that they want, like gorgeous. I mean, a creature more gorgeous, I don't know. She was stunning. She was not stupid. She was full of fun, and she knew intrinsically as a child that people didn't want her happy, and like she already knew that was a problem.
I know, and then trying to reach for that happiness is very difficult because sometimes those people reach in the wrong places.
Yeah, and people want to squash them, and so that was a lot of her issue. But what was more interesting about her, I talked to her for several months before her passing about her son. That's when she came to me, is after her son passed. I'd spoken to her in reference to everybody that knew her around her were clients of mine, but then they brought her to me when her son passed, which that was a different thing, and she was heartbroken over that. It was very hard for her to understand. Well, it's the worst thing you can go through, actually. Other than being a child and losing your parent. But what was interesting with her, I actually experienced her death process prior to her passing. I did not.
So you sort of saw it. You sort of thought, oh my gosh.
I physically lived it. And this is, which is a bizarre thing, but my kids will tell you this. My husband will tell you this. I had experiences for the 4 months prior to her death and up until Christmas Eve. She passed, I think, in February, but up until Christmas Eve, where I actually thought I was dead. No, I'm not drunk or on drugs, but
you know what?
I felt
a lot of times someone who's incredibly intuitive can be mistaken for crazy. I'm not that person. I really believe that if someone really feels something, listen to what they have to say. You know? I'm not one of those who's going to judge you. I get it. I understand.
Yeah, I was, and this is why I tell everybody, this is why I'm sober, because if you were ever psychic and drunk and high, people would then use that as an excuse. So I don't do those things for that reason. But what I experienced was actually I had my husband for several months prior to her passing take pictures of my legs from the waist down because I was quite sure I had an infection in my right thigh and that it was very swollen and septic. I would wake up in the middle of the night. He would take a picture with a camera because I said, you're not going to be able to see me because I'm dead. And he would be like, yeah, okay, I'll take the picture with the camera. Your legs are fine. And I said, no, there was an infection. She actually, and it wasn't announced on the news, I heard this through family friends, people that knew her, after her passing, that was one of the reasons that her body was broken down. She'd actually had an infection.
Did she have a blood infection?
She had a sepsis, blood infection in the thigh, apparently from the tip of a needle that had been stuck in the top of the thigh.
Is it true that you can have sepsis and not know? I was having a conversation
She didn't
with
know.
Conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, in fact, and she said, "Oh, you would have a fever if you have." I said, "No, you wouldn't. A lot of people don't know that they have it, and then they're gone."
That's what happened to her. Her immune system was was down. I kept feeling like the swelling in my leg as if I had an infection in my leg, but I couldn't see it in the camera pictures. And this is actually true. But the Christmas Eve, I was wrapping presents for the kids of that. She passed 2 months after that. And I was in the mirror, and I actually started screaming on Christmas Eve because I couldn't see my face, I couldn't see my skin, and I couldn't see my makeup. I started screaming. My husband took a picture of me, gave me some tea, said, calm the, bleep down.
Okay, my husband would never, ever fly with this. This would not fly with him. He really would go, you are batshit
crazy.
Oops.
Yeah.
He would. He'd be like, you are batshit out of your mind. And he would just walk out. So you're very fortunate that you have a husband who believes in how you're feeling and thinking. Because I think that's...
If he doesn't, he knows better than to actually... Maybe he just placates me because he wanted to get to sleep.
I told you how I feel about that. I believe you can get an intuitive feeling about things.
Well, here was the catcher with that story. Anyway, when she ended up passing away, Sandy actually called me from the Bahamas because she was the one that was going to be doing Anna's hair and makeup. And she started screaming, I can't do an open casket. I can't do her makeup. The skin is off. Exactly what I saw in the mirror without getting into much graphic detail. They had not kept the body in as best a shape, so it had to be a closed casket. But she was calling me saying what I was saying to the mirror. So it was almost like a strand of time, and I was picking it up a little bit earlier. So it was quite an extraordinary. I thank her for that because
I somehow believe in that. I guess. I mean, I felt that a little bit before my mom passed, but she's my mom and she was older. So anyone would just say, well, of course, But I remember as she was walking out of my house, I thought, I'm not going to see her again. I just had this feeling. But then again, like I said, she was older. So
that doesn't mean everybody who's old, we're getting older. We don't necessarily we're not all going to drop dead.
So tell me some of the other work that you do with celebrities. You've been on so many shows. You've
Lots.
Worked with Cameron Diaz. Tell us some of the good stuff, some of the celebrities
the very fun stuff. Okay,
yeah.
I'll tell you a very fun story because I think I can say it now. But I had this beautiful girl that used to come to my house with another client of mine. She brought her friend, and she was a very tall, beautiful model girl, and she would ask me about boyfriends, and she would sit down and we would talk about boyfriends with her, and she was dating all these interesting men. And it came to me that she was going to marry an action figure star. Okay, so I'm going to let you guess who it is. But anyway, as we go down the road, I couldn't see who it was.
Action figure star.
Yeah, but I kept telling her they make dolls of this person. Like he's somebody like Arnold.
Jennifer Flavin or
No. This was after that. No, she'd been married. No, like maybe 6 years ago.
Demi Moore.
Close, you're close. Anyway,
I'm thinking Arnold, but Maria would not go.
No,
to
but
an
I was saying Arnold. I mean, I was saying, oh, it's like Arnold. Anyway, it was Emma that married Bruce, so it was quite interesting. Bruce Willis. And
but I was close. You're right.
Close.
I mean, I don't even know who his other wives are.
Yeah. So it was the new wife with the new family. So it was quite fun because eventually I was saying, no, he's an action figure hero. You're going to meet him. They have dolls with him, but I couldn't see his face, but I just knew he was an action figure hero. So that was really fun. And then she called me one day and she said, I'd like you to come and read my boyfriend. And I'm like, sure, cool. Where are we going? And she's like, well, his name is Bruce. And that was very, very fun. That was actually one of the best readings I've ever done because he is the coolest dude on the planet. So very open, very cool, and has a very lovely family right now.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, that was fun.
Did a little with Cameron Diaz or no? Wasn't she on a show that you were on as well?
Yes, we were on with, oh my God.
She's fun. She is
was
fun. She'll go with anything.
Yes, we did color. We read her colors on that show. So we read her colors. We read.
She's a great sport. She'll go with anything.
It was Megan Mullally show.
Yeah.
It was for the Megan Mullally show. Yeah. And she was very nice, very open. And you know what was interesting with her? She's completely an empath. What I noticed about her, even if she thinks she's logical, thinks she's business oriented,
she is empathic.
She's empathic. She was just very empathic.
That makes her a terrific actress. Aside from the fact that she's like
gorgeous,
incredibly gorgeous,
and tall, and nice and tall and gorgeous.
Yeah, no, she is. Would you stay in studio with me for our next guest? Because it's kind of fun. Are you on the line, Jennifer?
Yes. Hello.
Hey, how are you, Jennifer Jolly? How are you?
I'm doing well.
I'm
so high tech that I almost wasn't able to call in. So,
well, for anybody,
it's the little things that
what happened there? As I was doing the show, I know my time, and I'm thinking, where is she? Does she not know the phone number? So I'm texting away while my lovely guest next to me is talking. But Miss Tech Journalist, you found your way to the phone and you managed to call in. So thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
I had her on because I thought she was a very interesting
on what we're talking about today.
Yes, I didn't hear that because the applause from my enormous studio audience was so loud. But let me a little background on you. You are a consumer tech journalist. You work with the New York Times, USA Today. You contribute to CNN, The Today Show, Dr. Oz. I mean, just the list goes on and on and on. What I found interesting was I read an article, something that you did. I also saw something on TV about internet slang, which sort of totally piqued my attention. Like your kids or your friends actually, are sending stuff, right? And they're texting about you, or they're sending something on, I don't know, all over social media, and you don't know what the heck they're saying. So I brought you on to sort of teach us a little bit about some of the more popular teenage slangs out there, so that we know if we're looking over somebody's shoulder what they're saying. Have at it. Go ahead.
Yeah, this really breaks down into a couple different categories. One is kind of this common vernacular, this teen slang, the AF. Which stands for as, and then you can imagine the F word that
F
follows.
blank blank K. I really don't feel like saying it. I say it enough on the air here because you can, but I'm not up for that today. So yeah.
No, high key, low key. I just was told the other day by someone at a checkout counter, "Boy, you're so woke." And of course, I had to go run to my teenage daughter and say, "I just was told I'm woke. What does that mean?" And she's like, "Oh, Mom,
Oh, loser. How do you not know this? Somebody once did this to me." And I'm like, "Oh, they love me." I swear to God. My girlfriend was playing tennis or paddle, and she went like that. I said, "Oh, that is so sweet." And she's like, "I'm calling you a loser." And that was just a sign. Yeah. I mean, but go ahead.
There's those popular terms that every millennial is throwing around, but then there's also these acronyms. And these tend to be a lot scarier, a lot trickier, and worth really paying attention to, because in the suicide culture, in the online cyberbullying culture, there's some big red flags. So if you have a child, if you have a teenager, the minute they get on the internet or get onto social media, there are things that you just want to be aware of, in addition to all the other good parenting things, having open communication. But let's talk about some of these acronyms, because I am, woke AF, but I did not know a lot of these. And, so one is 53X.
What? Wait, say it again. One is what?
53X. Well, if you think about what a 5 looks like and a 3 looks like, that spells sex. It's a sneaky way to type sex.
Oh.
KMS, kill myself. KMN, kill me now. KYS, kill yourself.
Ooh.
LH.
That is messed up. So you're right. It's good to know. No, it's good to know this stuff for kids that are maybe being bullied. I didn't even think about that one. I just thought about kids being sneaky, wanting to go, meet up or do whatever they're doing. I didn't even think about that. That's just a whole, a whole area that I wasn't even thinking about. That's really important. Are kids bullying one another and sending these kind of cryptic messages to each other, and they know but we don't?
Yes, there is that problem going on that exists, that has always existed, even long before the online world and texting. So what we're seeing now, and what parenting experts will be the first to tell you, is that it's taking the schoolyard bullying, the high school bullying, and just putting it online. So it's not like these kids aren't at risk anyway. You know, maybe they have some depression, maybe they're being bullied, but now it moves online, and it's really important as a parent to be present where your kids are. So if your kids are using messaging apps, and I also flagged some that they're probably using, and these are probably the ones you should be monitoring: Instagram, Snapchat, GroupMe, social media apps, even Twitter and Facebook, you know, things like that. You need to pay attention to those. And I'm not talking about spying. That's a whole other ball of wax. I'm talking about that, hey, it's my job as your parent. You know, I'm going to teach you how to drive a car. I'm also going to kind of monitor and help you navigate this tricky world of social media. And there
you have
are
to be,
apps that you can get.
Got to be on the same page with that, though. I don't know my kids' passwords, and I want to know them. And my husband's like, no, it's privacy. But too bad. You know, if I'm paying the bills, privacy goes out the window. But I still don't know it. So I'm praying to God that something like that is not going on. But for those people who look over their kids' shoulders, or who can have access to read what they're doing, or just anybody, what are some of the ones that are pretty common out there that are being used?
Yeah, and just to address the password thing, I always tell parents all the time, if you're paying for that phone, you have to know the password. And what I told my own daughter is, look, it's not that I don't trust you. If anything happens to you, one of the first things that I will need is access to all the places, again, like all the places you've been and all the places where you basically live in this online world.
It's true.
And because we're reporters and journalists and stuff, I always back that up with, you know, this happened one time, and again, I get the eye roll.
I have all kinds of stories like that.
They're like bad stuff, right?
They're like, oh, here she goes. But I try and do it a different way now, so that it's more interesting and less preachy. But give us a couple of them, would you please? I mean, here's ones that are very benign. Here's ones that are benign. Thirsty, right? What does that mean? Impatient. To put shade, you're putting somebody down. Did you know all this stuff? I didn't. Did you know?
I did know that.
I did not. Okay, I mean, between going to Coachella last week and feeling like a dinosaur, and now I've got you on talking about, like, what does shade mean, and thirsty, and here's one. Turnt, T-U-R-N-T, means crazy, right? Who would have thought? Why can't they just write crazy, but they write turnt? Lit.
You know, and here's something else. Turnt might just mean drunk, too, or high.
Yeah, I read that, too.
You know?
Yeah. Did you know this?
Yeah.
See what you could learn here on Deborah Kobylt Live. You have no idea the things that people learn here.
Yeah, it's
you know,
good.
about Donald Trump's sign, about, you know, what does turnt and lit mean? So lit means hot and happening, right? Like, am I lit or no way? That's like totally not cool.
You're definitely lit. Yeah.
Oh.
No, you're lit. You're hot, you're happening, you're cool. Yeah, absolutely.
At least to you. Okay. But give me some of the other. Oh, salty. That means bitter. I mean, is it like cool to come up with this stuff? There's hundreds and thousands of them. And you're right. There's apps that tell you all, like, they're really, I'm going to start using these with my friends, and they're going to go, what is she talking about? I really am. I'm going to download that app and start to use the fun ones at least.
Well, and Deborah, not to like pile on here, but first we're going to get some of these acronyms and stuff down, but then think about throwing emojis in and all the different, these two emojis together. Hey, it looks just like an eggplant, but
I know what an eggplant is.
Together with a certain hand
I know
gesture,
what an eggplant is. In fact, my friend, I think he's a photographer. He's waiting for you in the next room. We were once together, and I was with him and his girlfriend, and we were texting. He was showing me some emojis. I couldn't stop laughing. So, yeah, an eggplant is not just an eggplant. So I got that one down. But what about, let's do this one. WYD.
So
what's WYD? I wrote a couple of these down that you gave me. What's that one?
WYD. I have to look. I have to go back. What you doing? That's pretty chill.
That's benign, easy.
You know, that's not so bad. But the ones that you really want to look out for as a parent, code 9. So it's CD9. That means there's parents around. Don't say anything you don't want them to know about.
That's the big one that somebody said.
yesterday.
Okay, that caught my attention when I saw it on the network news. It was like, CG9. What do they say? Okay, give me another one for all those. I have a girlfriend in studio. She's starting to write these down. I swear to God, she really is. Keep going. Give us some
I'll send you
more.
a big long list.
Go ahead. Keep it going.
MOS, mom over shoulder. POS, parent over shoulder. Then here's ones you really want to pay attention to. WTTP, want to trade photos.
Uh-oh.
No, hell no. The answer is always no. ADR, address. You do not want your child sharing identifiable information on location like this over text messages and instant messaging programs. You especially don't want them to put them out, on Instagram where the whole world can see, even if they think it's going to be taken down really quickly. You just don't want that few seconds of, oh, here's who this child is, and here's where they live, and here's where they go to school, and there's all of that. GYPO, get your pants off.
Wait,
GNOC,
whoa.
get on camera.
GYPO, get your pants off. I'm telling you, my girlfriend Mary is sitting here writing each one of these down, and she's making me laugh because of this. Give me another one. GYPO. What's another one?
GNOC, get naked on camera.
Okay, I'm going to send that one out to someone today and just see if they know what that is and if they'll get naked. I'm just going to test it out. I'm going to start testing these out to my friends.
And I'm going to put a long list on my website, which is techish, TECHISH, because I'm not techie, I'm techish, techish.com. I will, by the end of the day, post, like 500 of these.
Oh,
so
I love you
have
for
your own
this.
little dictionary.
Isn't that brilliant?
Yeah.
That is great. That is great. Well, we're actually running out of time. I don't have any more time. But would you come back? Because I found you to be really interesting.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
Any other like parting stuff that you can, tell us that we just have to know as parents and friends, as we're looking over people's shoulders to see what they're writing?
Here, really, honestly, have this conversation, have it a lot, and then think of investing in an app that you download on your own phone that scours all of the communication across and texting of kids. The one I use is called Bark, RK. It's $100 a year, but it looks for, suicide, eating disorders, drug talk, booze talk. Well, just monitor all that's coming in and going out from their phone. If it finds something that's kind of scary, it sends you a notice. But it not only does that, it also says, hey, here's why you should be worried about this. Don't freak out. Here's the way to handle this. So it's parenting support in new digital age.
Thank you so much for coming on. And again, your website is techish.com, right? Easy to remember. Jennifer?
.com.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to have you back on because I'm going to have like a longer list next time, and we're going to go through that. But everybody go on her website later because she's going to post a lot of these for those of us who want to know. And for those of us who want to use some of them, because I'm going to use some of them later and see if my people know. And Sloan, thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed it.
It was fun.
I think you're lovely. And will you come back too? And what's your website?
Yes.
People want to get in touch with you.
SloanBella.com.
SloanBella.com. Okay,
That's
and
simple.
You're available if people want to call you, be
I'm
consulted.
available.
And you're she's available.
Put
She's
that on the
available to
app.
hire. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It was a fun day, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we will be back next week. Another edition of Deborah Kobylt Live. We'll see you then.